What sets us apart from our competition is that we don't rely on gimmicks and tricks to sell our product. We just rely on the quality that we know is there.
So hello, I'm Paris Wells, a campaign manager from Birchal, and welcome to the Newcastle Distilling webinar. We are beaming in from Newcastle and Melbourne. So initially I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we are both meeting. I pay my respects to the elders past and present and the Aboriginal elders of any other communities who might be here today. All right, throughout this webinar, we will begin with some common questions that we've seen throughout the campaign so far, a little bit of history on Newcastle distilling, which I'll let the boys do, and just a general chat on where they intend to move forward with the business. Can I encourage people to pop your questions in the Q&A section, which you'll see down the bottom, and I will field them to the boys throughout the chat. So first, let's introduce our founders. We've got Sam Cable. Hi, Sam, how you going?
Hey, how are you?
And we've got Lucas Cartell.
G'day everyone, how you going?
No, thanks for your time, guys, and look forward to chatting with these investors. So let's get started. Now, Sam, who is Brewstill?
So Brewstill is the company that is kind of like the umbrella company, if you want to call it, who, you know, where it's going to look after our Warners Bay, the Colburn, and our production facility here in Shortland. But we are a craft distillery. And what that means is a lot of people do call themselves a craft distillery. But what that really means is that we are completely independent from everyone else. We don't rely on buying in our product. We actually make our own. We ferment everything on site. So it is a bit of a lengthy process. So that's why, you know, it also allows us to have a final say in the product as well. So we remove all the nasties, like all the stuff in a spirit run is called the heads, hearts and tails. In the heads is where you get a lot of your methanol and the stuff that I like to say tastes like paint stripper. So we remove all that and we only keep the hearts, which is the purest form of the alcohol run. And we get rid of the tails as well. And look, we can get more into it and more in depth at a later stage if you wish. But that's what really separates us, and that's who we are, is a proper, true artisanal craft distilling company.
Awesome. And where is it located exactly?
Yes, so our production facility is in the Newcastle LGA in the suburb of Shortland. So it's more on the outskirts. Our Warners Bay site is in the Lake Macquarie LGA in Warners Bay. And then our Colburn site is up near Cessnock in the heart of the Hunter Valley, mainly known for wine, but we're starting to change that. And yeah, it's right in the heart of the Colburn as well. So lots of tourists will be floating through. So we're really excited for that one.
Yeah, beautiful part of the world. Lucas, could you tell us where it all started? Because it's quite a good story.
Yeah, so I started the business about 2014. I've been distilling, well, I guess it all started when I bought a still from a garage sale when I was 17 for about $20. And I didn't use it until my 18th birthday, of course. But yeah, the guy gave me a quick 2-minute rundown on how to make alcohol. He didn't have many teeth, so it was a very interesting experience.
Bless.
Spend the next few probably months learning how to distill with no guidance whatsoever. And I can tell you right now, looking back on that 20 years ago, I don't know how I'm still alive. The product was pretty terrible, and you know, none of the safety precautions were followed and all that sort of stuff. But you know, I went away and learnt properly how to do it from that stage. So, you know, ever since then, I've been distilling pretty much week in, week out for the last 20 years in my spare time.
Wow, what a passion!
Yeah, it's fun. It's, you know, I've probably done over 1,000 batches now, if not more. So it's getting up there with experience. So I guess probably then. So about 7 years ago, I was in a sort of, you know, a lull between jobs. Like I was pretty unhappy where I was, what I was doing. I was working security in a military base, and I was just not enjoying what I was doing. So, you know, I was also in the fire brigade, and I was at a fire one night, one of my colleagues, and he was talking about my passions, and I told him how much I love distilling, and it's something I've always wanted to do, but always kept making excuses not to do it. And he turned around and said to me and said, mate, look, life's too short. You just don't know when it's going to end. If you want to do something, do it.
Amen.
Do whatever you have to do and do it. So anyway, a few weeks passed, and I was driving to work one morning to the job I hated, and I ran off the road and nearly hit a tree. So I fell asleep, ran off the road, and got to work that day. Got a phone call that my mate, the one that was with me at the fire 2 weeks before, had been killed in a car accident. So yeah, so I put my resignation in that day, listened to his advice, and sort of went, life's too short. It's a pretty emotional time, as you can imagine, and yeah, just got the ball rolling. And then I think 6 weeks later, I was in a Pantech moving to Cooma.
Unbelievable. If that's not a sign to make it happen, I don't know what is, really.
No, financially, I probably should have waited another 6 months, but in saying that, I probably wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
So I just took the bull by the horns and made the move down there. So yeah, then just opened a little distillery down in Cooma, just in a little tin shed down the back streets, and just started plodding away, working 3 jobs, working at Macca's in the morning, and then working at the distillery during the day, and then working in the afternoon, security at night, just trying to
here we are. Unbelievable. What a great tale. So there's a lot of craft spirits in Australia at the moment. So what separates you guys from the competition?
Oh, yeah, look, I kind of touched on it before regarding how we make the spirits. Everything is made in-house. We do make our vodka. If you look on the socials, you'll see how we make our vodka, and the little trade secret is it's from a tomato paste. And you wouldn't think tomato paste is how you make vodka, but the vitamins, minerals and such in that helps add to our flavour. So we use that neutral base spirit or vodka to make a lot of our other products as well. What separates us as well is because we aren't a big brand name, so to speak, we're able to adapt quickly, adapt to the market. We don't hold ourselves to one area, which means we are able to make a range of unique products and really follow market trends. And the exciting part about the Kulin, the Easy Street Distilling site, Easy Street Collective, is that we are really going to focus on that. It's going to be a range of products that, yes, you can get other places, but a range of products that we know are wanted out there and we want to make as well. So, everyone's going to have their own unique selling point, but ours is it's been a family-owned company. Everything is made from scratch. We do not buy any of our base spirit in, which, as I've said before, a lot of companies do because it is a cheaper, easier option. It's more time efficient, but they don't have that say on the final product. And the only way they can get rid of any nasties, I can't think of the right word, is just by adding extra flavors in. And that's quite literally how they do it.
Wow.
Especially flavored vodkas. But yeah, that, as I said, it's the uniqueness that we have, the ability to adapt and change and listen to the market that separates us from everyone else.
I've got Nathan asking how long Sam has been with Newcastle Distillery.
Yeah, so I've been here, I actually looked at it the other day, just over a year now.
Okay. Yeah. And how did you guys meet? You sort of decided to pair up?
Facebook. Fantastically.
Really?
I was COVID. I lost my previous job because of COVID. I was made redundant and I was working in a bar. I have a background in hospitality and sales. So I've got degrees in them. I was just going through Facebook, sitting at home going, oh, what am I going to do? I don't want to work in a bar any longer. I was late 20s, I'm 30 now. All my mates are going out having drinks and there I am behind the bar.
Serving them. Yeah.
But I thought, and then this came up and I went, well, look, let's not lie. I don't mind a cheeky beverage. Why not sell them as well, but not behind the bar?
Good point. I've got a bit of info to fill in about the beer brewing system. Lucas, tell us more about the beer and actually why it's unique.
Yeah, so look, beer is obviously a passion of ours as well. We enjoy drinking it just as much as we enjoy making it. but I think it's a lot to do with the beer scene in the Hunter. So
Right.
the Hunter region is one of the leading growth areas for beer consumption in Australia. So there's a real what's the right word? There's no saturation up here compared to some areas. So a lot of other places are saturated with breweries, especially up in the North Coast, Western Sydney, all those sort of places. But the Newcastle only has, I think, 3 breweries at the moment, and there's a huge demand, especially up in the Hunter region, when COVID's not around and everyone can travel. And I think it's time for us to sort of jump into that sector and really support our local community. We're both born and bred Newcastle, so if we can build a brewery, we can make beer, and we can also dramatically increase our whiskey production as well.
That's interesting. That probably moves us to the next question of what will funding with crowdfunding allow you to do?
Yeah, so pretty much run everything. No, look, the funding is going to allow us to install the beer brewing system that we have already designed. They'll do 540,000 litres of beer a year. It will allow us to then contract brew for other companies. It'll come with canning machines, so can not just our products but everyone else. Allow us to open all of the cellar doors straight away to increase that retail sale. So it allows us to buy every single bit of equipment and furniture that we absolutely need. We'll be able to hire more staff, so support the local community. Research and development of new products, improve just our production method and standards. They are great already, but you can only do so much with a small budget. The budget's larger, it means we can put absolutely everything in place and we don't have to stress. And just gets us back to doing what we enjoy doing, which is getting out there face to face with people, creating good products and getting that product in their hands.
Probably relates to Benjamin's question here. He says, what are the channels you think will be most important towards growth? i.e., do you want to prioritise wholesale, big box sales through retailers like Dan Murphy's, BWS, or do you want to prioritise to direct customer sales, being cellar door, supply chain to bars and hospitality and all that?
Look, I think it'd be stupid of us not to focus on everything. I think we are doing well. Our sales have obviously increased 300% over the past 2 years. And the exciting thing, as I've said to a few people, is a lot of that's come from wholesale. So wholesale is starting to really look after itself and we're starting to get a name. So right at the beginning, I'd really love to focus on the retail side of things, because we know that the more retail we sell, the bigger margins we get. So, to get it into those Dan Murphys, to get it into those, retailers who do churn over, we have to pass a bit of a discount on. So with that increase that we've seen, is just imagine if we were able to run our markets, run cellar doors and charge full freight on all their products, that number would be significantly larger than what it is already. And we're excited with how much it's actually increased. So to, I guess, look back is more of the retail side of things. So online and our cellar doors in the first 6 months, and then still pay attention to that wholesale, but let the brand build it, because as we know, you go to a bottle shop or you go somewhere, you buy products that Once that brand name is out there further, then we can start going to the bars. We can start going back to more bottle shops and larger chains, because they have to take up a space on their shelf. They're only going to do it with a product that they know will move. So that's the plan.
All right. A specific product question from Jerome, who said, will you be producing beer in bottles or small kegs?
So we'll be doing cans. We'll also have options to fill kegs. So if people want to fill their kegs for their at-home systems, we'll be doing kegs for venues such as bars and restaurants. We're not doing bottles at this stage, largely because the demand from the customer isn't there. The packaging demand is cans, with, I think it's like 80% of beers moving into cans now. And that's simply what customers want. They don't want breakage. They want to be able to take it to events and festivals and parks and things and not have to worry about it breaking. And also, cans prevent the access of sunlight to the product, and sunlight and oxygen are the 2 worst enemies of beer. So if we can prevent both of those and then have a good production system with canning to minimise the amount of oxygen that's accessed. We get the freshest possible beer we can. In saying that, we may do products like, you know, a bourbon aged Russian Imperial Stout, you know, 12-15%, which we might serve in a champagne bottle or a long neck bottle, or a unique product, or we might do a 55%, you know, strength beer, which is
wow.
But there's a few steps involved in that, but it would be in a small bottle, for example. So, but that's a maybe.
Okay.
At the moment, we're focusing on can production. I think that's the.
If the demand changes, we'll adapt and overcome. But as Lucas said, the demand at the moment is cans, and you know, if we are going to push that retail in bulk, and then eventually more wholesale, the cans are the way to go for that aspect, because less floor space, easier to clean up. You know, you step on a can, you crush it down, it takes up this much space as opposed to a bottle. So
okay, back to the facilities. We've got a couple of sites to talk about, don't we? So let's go through. What about the facility at Shortland?
Yeah, so as I said, we've got the 3 sites. So Shortland is our original space. It's quite a large 500 square metre warehouse in Shortland, sort of hidden away in the residential area. It'll be the primary space initially for our production. So at the moment, that's where all our production is undertaken. We do our distilling and brewing here. We do have a small brewing system, which I'll talk about later already.
Okay.
But yeah, currently our Shortland facility is our main facility. So that's where we've been here for the last 2.5 years, and we do all of our production on site here.
All right. There's actually an interesting question here by Chris Lawrence. Can you tell us what sort of impact the aging process for some of your spirits has on your planning?
Good question, actually. So at the end of the day, we can produce almost unlimited quantities of whiskey, for example, but it's the cost that goes with it. So, for example, a barrel of whiskey in our current environment, like the hot summers and the cold winters, takes about 3 years to mature in a 100-litre barrel. Now, for us to produce that, set that aside, store that, is quite a substantial expense up front. So you've got labor, obviously labour, raw materials, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then, but the benefit on the flip side of that is you get quite a solid return on that investment. So we're looking, 500 to 600% return on whatever we produce when it comes to whiskey and rum.
That's interesting. Anthony Knight here thinks you got a great product and a great team, but he's wondering what outside advice are you getting to model these opportunities and increase your chances of success? Are you getting any mentoring?
Yeah, we're pretty fortunate. We've Sam and I both got a few, family, friends, networking connections that are involved in various industries, from finance to sales to marketing, and for myself in production. I personally have got my mate Steve Dobson up in Dobson's Distillery, Kentucky.
Wow.
One of the nicest blokes you'll ever meet, really early pioneer in our industry. From day one, he's mentored me. If I've got a question, I can ring him. If I need technical support, I can ring him. Our industry is just brilliant. There's Peter Bignell down in Tasmania. There's a couple of guys in Sydney, Melbourne, that if we get stuck or, we want to produce a new product, we can run ideas by them, get a bit of a crowd happening and just discuss it. So that's personally for me. And then obviously I've got a little bit of the business mentoring behind me as well. So I've got a few people who run their own businesses, give me tips and advice and stuff. So
from my point of view, I've come from a corporate background, and through that, and ever since I was a little kid, I was kind of trained by my parents to network with people, weirdly. So I have a lot of people who are CFOs of companies. My father as well is a chemical engineer by trade, but he's got a wealth of knowledge in production management, maintenance management, warehouse management, safety. So there's a lot of people that I can, from an operational point of view, is lean on to ask for help if we get stuck on something, because they're more knowledgeable in some aspects. So the way that I always look at management is, if you're not good at something, find someone who is, and learn from them and lean on their experience. So in turn, you can get it as well. So we, with all that being said, I think we've got every bit of the business aspects covered, from production to unique products to running the actual business.
Now you just need to expand you just want to expand the offering. I understand. Asking the hard questions here. They've got this is quite topical at the moment, I guess, with Lion and so what is the end game? IPO, exit into ABV, Lion, etc., or are you independent for life?
Well, my take is simple on this. I have been from day one, this is my future. So this is where I plan to be one day. Hopefully my kids will come on board and take over and run a generational business. Maybe something along the lines of what Cooper's has done with beer. Probably not the same as them, but along that line. Don't get me wrong though, at the end of the day, we're a business. If someone comes into your business and does what they did to Stone and Wood and offers you $500 million or whatever ridiculous amount of money they're offered, as a director of a company with shareholders, I have to consider, or we have to consider, whether that's the right decision for the shareholders. If it means everyone gets a substantial chunk of cash, well, then that might be the right choice. In saying that, that's not part of the plan. I have no desire to sell out. I've always planned on being independent and building that for my kids. But at the end of the day, everything's for sale for the right price, but it has to have a lot of zeros on the end of it. And it has to benefit everyone. And look, in all honesty, we're probably, places like Stone and Wood, for example, Bolter that sold out recently, they had huge budgets behind them to start off with. But, they might have sold for 200 or 300 million or whatever. I don't even know the amount that they sold for. But they started with $20, $30 million to begin with. So they're already quite substantial when they first started. That's not us. So we're building a small business with the plans of growing into something big. But who knows? It's probably the best answer.
Yeah, that's a good answer. It actually leads to this other question about shareholders. How frequent will updates to investors be? I've jumped in on a few other raises and some are terribly infrequent. I could say from a Birchal answer that has been a question for other campaigns as well. It's up to all of us to keep maintaining with our investors. So have you got a little communication plan?
Yeah, well, look, a part of the, as I said earlier, with the raising of the capital, raising of the funds through the program, is to put on more staff. Look, at the moment, there's quite literally five of us, and Lucas and myself do a majority of the admin work. I do a lot of the day-to-day operational side of things, whereas Lucas will look after, the finance side of things. So what I'm trying to say is we'll put more admin staff on, which will then allow us to be more frequent with investor communication. So whether that's a quarterly review or a monthly update, we're not 100% sure yet. Because again, there's just a lot in our minds at the moment, looking at 3 sites, but that's the plan, is to have a form of consistent communication with everyone who's involved.
Excellent. That's a good answer. We have a couple of similar questions, which I know you're doing your documents at the moment. How much are you looking to raise?
So we're looking at a minimum of 330,000 and maximum offer 1.65. So okay. It's a fair chunk, but at the end of the day, it's just all going into growth. So the more we receive, the more we spend, which means the more growth we have, which means the more opportunity and the more rewards for everyone. So, we can run it with the 330. That's fine. But obviously, we want to try and push as high as we can. As I said in the other day, we sort of go hard or go home. Like, we want to go and push this. For the last 7 years, I've just been ticking along, reinvesting every single cent that this business has made. I haven't paid myself away, just push and push and push and push. And it's time for us to light the fuse, so to speak, and push this to the next level.
Yeah. Well, making any product is hard, and you guys have made a stack now. It's very impressive. You've done it on your own. Paul Anderson's asking, are you proposing a private company or public, listed or unlisted? I don't know if I understand that question. Sorry.
We're a private company, so we don't plan on going public yet.
Good question by Chris here. What has been your most costly lesson so far?
Yeah, stuff. No. Honestly, early on for me, it was trust. So my background is policing. So back in the day, I was a police officer and I was in fire brigade. Now, those jobs involve significant levels of trust with the people that you're involved with. Now, early on, I was a bit naive, probably, with trusting friends or trusting people to come on board, or, you know, things weren't exactly contracted properly, or the I's weren't dotted, the T's weren't crossed, and I got burned a few times early on by people. So I think for me, the biggest, you know, learning curve is to make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and that everyone, you know, has that safety net and be able to trust someone, not just trust someone for the sake of it. Have that safety net, which is why I think this Birchal platform is great, because we can build that level of trust and make sure all the documentation's there and make sure everything's, you know, legitimate and everyone's, you know, knows exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
So, you know, from trusting people a little bit too much. So, yeah, made some mistakes, but learn from our mistakes. So.
Excellent answer. Ben had another good question. Have you looked into projections regarding return of equity to potential shareholders? While profits should return to the business growth to start with, how do you intend to drive shareholder return in that 5 to 10 year window?
I think obviously that'll come down to the amount of profits that are being made. So initially, obviously shareholders are entitled to dividends. So we can decide how that happens. We plan on having a board of directors. So not just Sam and I, we're actually getting a few financial minds on board to sort of help us with that side of things, to make sure that we're doing, making all the right choices with how the money gets spent and where it gets spent. But yeah, look, ideally it'd be great to reinvest it all for a while, but at the end of the day, people are making an investment. They want to get a return on their investment. So I would see, you know, it being an option, so a reinvestment option. Again, this is not 100% confirmed just yet, but, you know, whether they take it as a dividend, take it as, you know, a product credit, take it as a reinvestment option. They're all opportunities that we're looking at. So
that's some good investor information, and we're going to have more information up on your platform soon. Thanks for everyone so far that's expressed interest. I'm sure a lot of them are on this webinar. And I've just got Sam, tell us about the corporate branding and any collaborations you guys might be doing, because that's quite hot right now, isn't it?
Yeah. So I used to be in real estate a few years ago, and, you know, Christmas time comes around, or, you know, you sell a product, you sell a property, you buy a property, and you generally get a bottle of champagne or a case of beer. Normally, every now and then you might get a few hampers. But I thought, why does it have to be a case of beer or a bottle of champagne? Why can't it be, for a similar price, a bottle of, you know, our vodka, which is 25 standard drinks? We can then also, so if you want to buy a bunch of them all up, you know, we can do wholesale pricing on it like that. Or for a slightly different price, we can put your own branding on the label. So it could say, thanks for choosing us, XYZ real estate or XYZ business. I did have a bottle, I'm looking for it, it's not here. But it'll kind of look like, so this is our 375ml bottle. So if we have a look at it there, your logo would go across there for the dry gin. And then on the side, it might just say Newcastle Distilling. But it's just something a little bit different, a little bit unique, and a little bit more personalised that you could give to clients, or a thank you for Christmas, or anything like that. Because, you know, or if you're looking at, you know, prospective business next year, is, you know, it doesn't have to be business related. You just go, hey, Merry Christmas, thanks very much, look forward to chatting soon. It's that extra step of trying to secure that business. Some of the old sayings that you've got to buy a peace of mind 7 times before someone acts on it. So, you know, if it's a simple email here and there, but the final thing is a nice little gift of gin or something like that to say Merry Christmas, then you're a better chance of getting business next year as well.
Yep. It's back to back to that communication thing we we're talking about. Sorry, Lucas.
Yeah, on that, last year we did quite a few corporate branded products, and for the Christmas period, one of them specifically was for a local steel business. I think it was about 150 odd bottles.
Yeah.
The amount of return sales we got as a result of that was exceptional. And so not only did we get our brand out there further, but it also got us a lot of repeat customers who hadn't even heard of us or hadn't tried our products, got given a product. And then, a few weeks later, they put an order through, or some of them are still ordering today from a year ago. So, that's a really good little niche market. And, going back to what we were talking earlier about bouncing ideas off other distilleries and other businesses in our network, is that there are a few places across the country who have had substantial success in corporate branding and doing huge volumes through various businesses. And I've been speaking to them heavily about that and getting tips and advice on how we can then implement that in our network without stepping on their toes. And sort of filling a gap in the market. So there's lots of good opportunities out there. And this comes back to the funding, is we've got a lot of opportunities available to us, but we're not executing them because we just don't want to overextend ourselves financially at the moment.
Yeah, smart. Karen's asking, how long to gear up to full production?
Thanks for the question, Karen. About 6 months. So currently we have all 3 sites under our control. So Warners Bay, Birchal and Shortland, and we're slowly just renovating them in our spare time. And, you have barbecues with mates when COVID wasn't around, and just getting it done. But that would just allow us to just bang, kick it. And, Warners Bay, we're planning on opening within the next 4 to 6 weeks, maybe. Birchal, we're opening hopefully middle of October once lockdown's finished. And then Shortlands, as I said, we're already here. So we're already doing production, and we're probably only 5% of our current capacity. But then, to get the equipment delivered, installed is about 5 to 6 months. So, so it's probably quicker than that, but it just depends.
You kind of covered this before, but Michelle has asked, what is the current group structure and what part of it will investors be investing into? That's a good question.
Yeah. Okay. So Brewstill Proprietary Limited is the head company, which is based out of our head office at Warners Bay, our Warners Bay site. And then we have the Phoenix Brewhouse, which is owned by Brewstill. So Brewstill owns the 3 companies I'm going to talk about. The Phoenix Brewhouse is the company at Shortland. That's large. And then we've got the Distillers Guild Proprietary Limited for the Warners Bay site. Yep. And then Easy Street Collective for the Birchal site. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that. Mostly it's largely to do with council and licensing. So, liquor and gaming don't like you having a liquor license, one company having more than one liquor license. So we've had to sort of have 3 separate liquor licenses. So we've had to create 3 separate companies. So, so at the moment, the investment is for Brewstill, but Brewstill owns those 3 companies.
Yeah. So let's just say, for argument's sake, and it's not going to happen, Warners Bay doesn't go as successful as we wanted it to, but Coleman is absolutely smashing it. You're still going to get a good return because it's across all 3 brands. It's also a way to protect yourself in case something does happen at one side. It doesn't mean that everything falls down. Only one pillar will fall, means the other 2 can pick it up and continue on from there. I know that sounds real negative, but, devil's advocate, so to speak, may as well be black and white and up there. But that's another reason why, you structure it that way as well.
That's a good honest answer, Sam. That's good.
The other option of that is the flip side of that, because I'm an optimist. That someone comes in and offers a stupid amount of money, for example, for Coleman, and we decide, okay, well, we still want our Newcastle brand to continue, but we no longer want the Coleman site for whatever reason, because it has a lot of zeros on the end of it. Then that might be something that we consider the benefit of the company. But it's just also the benefits of having it structured like that. So we can have everything separate. It's also good for reporting as well. We can manage each site separately, and we can keep track of how things are positive, how things are going with it. Separately.
Yeah, it does.
And look at it, and the training, what areas are falling down or going really good, where you need to reinvest money. So there might be, oh, okay, well, production is doing well, but what site's doing well in production? Like, is taking the majority of production. Okay, well, then for Kulin, we need to do some more training with the staff up there, that type of thing.
Yeah, spreads it out. Luke says, are you considering any other debt instruments to help with growth? That's a good question.
Not at this stage. We have considered vehicle leasing, so that's going to be an option. That's more of a tax reason for that one rather than purchasing the vehicles outright. But we don't really have any plans. We don't really want to be held, knife to the throat by the banks. So I don't really like dealing with the banks. But from day one, we've just ran this business with the cash we make. So we prefer to stay away from debts if we can. But in the end of the day, if that has to be an option down the track, for example, if we only reach minimum funding and we want to then go and grow the business further, then we may have to look at a finance option. But preferably, that would be avoidable at this stage.
Okay. So do you want to cover any more of the growth plans for the business? And any more questions, shoot them through now, guys.
I think the growth plans for the business is really focusing on getting those cellar doors open. The prime example of the Kulin is, I used to work in the Hunter Valley, which is where it is. I know one of the companies up there was one of the original distilling companies, can do roughly $3.3 million in turnover a year, and I'm being conservative on that. There's no reason that we can't do that, because we're going to have a cellar door, a bar, a restaurant, and compared to all the other distilleries in the area, we'll have a whiskey and rum offering. With one of the major hotels up there, it is a Chinese-backed, and I'm saying this because I've worked up in the hotels up there. It is a Chinese-backed company, and I know that they're always asking me, where can I get whiskey? Where can I get rum? So I know with my connections up there, I can drive people from the different hotel sites and the boutique hotels to our cellar door. That, to me, that's where, for the retail point of view, it's where we're going to really push. So any other revenues, not really, but just mainly pushing those cellar doors and the different offerings that we can make out of those locations.
This will come out soon in your live offer, but minimum price of investment for an investor to jump in.
Okay, so share price is $3.30. Minimum is $66, so 20 shares.
Nice, that's pretty good.
$3.30, not $330.
Yeah.
So yeah, about a $70 minimum. Is that what you mean? Yeah. Give or take. Excellent. We have a funny person here. How often does Lucas get mistaken for Jason now that they both had beards? I think you probably know who that is.
No, I don't, but it's funny. Who is it? Tell me.
Chris Lawrence.
Oh, Chris, okay, yeah. No, I'm better looking, so very often. So.
This is another good question by Michelle is, how much debt and equity does Lucas have in the group? Will any of the investment raise go towards repaying anything like back to you that you've invested?
So the exact figures will be in the crowdfunding document.
Okay, sure.
At the moment, I think I'm about 85% majority shareholder. And no, all the funds that come into the business will be used on the business to run and grow the business. So there won't be any debt repayments or anything like that. There is a loan on the company to me, but again, that's in the documentation. But there's no plans to repay that at any stage. So
okay. Steve asks, Steve asks, what is the target annual production for whiskey? Hard question.
Oh, it is a hard question, and it is as much as possible. So it'll all come down to a costing. Once we get the new brew house and distillery installed, it'll come down to a cost per unit production side of things. So if we can afford to make more, we will. We want to make as much as possible because we love whiskey and we think that there is a huge growing market and the demand is far outweighing the supply.
Wow.
And so whiskey, we want whiskey to be our primary product. Essentially, that's our top notch. That's who we want to be. We want to be the hunters, and Northern New South Wales is the best whiskey producer
I like that goal. That's good.
That goal. And everything else we're doing really is a push to be that.
Benjamin has a good question. Are you entering any Australian Spirit Awards competitions?
We haven't this year, largely just because of COVID, but we have previously, and we do plan on entering some Australian international ones. We've won quite a few awards already. I think we've got about 16 medals in total. Last year, or earlier this year, we got a silver medal in London. We've won silver medals in the Australian Distilled Spirit Awards last year. Double gold in China in 2019 for our Sparadrap Spice.
Before COVID.
Before COVID, yeah. Yeah, so definitely we do, and we plan on entering, and we do enter the competitions. We have received a medal for every single product that we've ever entered into a competition.
That's incredible. Awesome.
Yeah, but we just haven't this year. We just sort of reallocated funds. We just thought, well, we're busy spending every cent on growth at the moment, so let's focus on that. And then we can worry about competitions later.
We haven't also made new products. So to enter the same product into the same competition, we probably expect the same result. So there's no point really in doing it. When we start making our new products, which we're already in production for our site, we will enter them into the relevant categories and relevant awards. It's just sent a waste of money to enter something that's already won something. It's probably just going to get the same response.
All right. I'm not sure what Stefan means, but what is your spring water license capacity?
We don't currently have one.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, that answers that question. Michael said, any plans for a barrel investment program?
Yeah, so we did run one initially. So that was one of the things we did back in the day, about 7 years ago, to sort of help us get started. We just did a really small one. I think it ended up only being 10 barrels. And it was only a percentage of each barrel. But it is part of the plan. And again, it comes down to staffing. We want to have someone specifically for that role. This is there's a lot of communication involved. There's a lot of, process and et cetera involved. So yes, it's part of the plan. When, I don't know.
Okay.
We currently have a similar barrel investment sort of. And it's called our Founders Club. We've actually imported 10 barrels from Liqueurs Distillery in Scotland that we are filling up with our own single malt whiskey. We've just tried the new make the other day, and it's already taken on a substantial flavourings from the barrels itself. So that real nice peatiness that Liqueurs is known for. But what for an investment of like $13.60, you get a couple of like hats and jumpers, but what you'll get is a bottle of whiskey every year for the next 10 years, and plus a few samplers here and there. So by the end of it, you'll have a 10-year-old whiskey that's been aged in a Lefroy barrel made in Australia. So really multicultural, but it's a really cool option if that's something you want to look at, or you're a whiskey lover.
The first bottles are out, so first 30 odd members have already got their bottles and their hoodies and their shirts and their caps and everything like that. So yeah.
Well, make sure they put it on Instagram. Nathan says, do you have any plans for sort of putting reps out in other locations?
Yeah, so I started off as a sales manager here. Been trying to get a bit of a growth and a foothold in Newcastle, which has started. The way that we've adapted due to COVID and having staff and staff costings starting to creep up a little bit is I've decided some of our staff is going to take on a sales role 1 or 2 days a week. And they kind of fold it into their work week anyway. So I have someone who lives in an area, they look after that LGA. Had someone start 2 weeks ago, they're looking after another. As we are able to afford more staff, I will be implementing staff into different areas. So moving out to the Central Coast, eventually Sydney, move up towards Port Stephens, Foster, Tuncurry, the mid-North Coast, North Coast and all that. So there is a plan in place. Again, it just comes down to cash to be able to pay the staff.
No worries. Excellent. Jaron wants to know, this might have been answered already, but this will be in your offer document. So what percentage of the company is being offered in the raise, and will you do another round of investment at a later date? Good question.
Yeah, good question. So 40% is if we reach the maximum, 40% of the company. So that's across the board. And we don't plan on doing another raise. It's always, the plan is to achieve what we want to achieve now and get the business cranking. But if there was a need to do another raise down the track because one, we didn't get the maximum offer, or two, business is doing really well and we want to kick it into gear again, we may consider that. But again, that'll come down to a decision of the board of directors, where everyone would get an opportunity to vote on that decision. So we would obviously put that out at a board meeting and give everyone that chance to vote on whether we go down that path again, similar to what we've done already with our people that are involved now.
All right. Well, we'll start wrapping it up. Is there anything else you'd like to say to your prospective investors?
Look, guys, we're chuffed, taken aback a little bit by obviously the amount of interest that has been shown. We are excited. We're excited with the possibilities that, the funding is going to allow us to do. We just want to do it sooner rather than later, to be honest. It has been, for the past year I've been here, it's definitely been it's been hard, but we've done as best as we can. And I think, the growth that we've been able to achieve with the minimum amount of funds that we have had has been pretty substantial. And we've had people go, wow, you guys have done really, really well. We want to still be able to give advice to other people. We've been giving advice to a bunch of smaller companies, I should say, who want to come and make a vodka, or contracted companies, I should say. So we're excited to continue to do that. I guess we've kind of taken the foot off the accelerator in that aspect a little bit, just because we've been focusing so hard on, during COVID, is keeping ourselves afloat. We're looking forward to not having that financial strain where we can help ourselves but help others as well. And that's, I guess, what you guys are going to be able to help us with. So that's what we're excited for and to be able to move forward with.
Okay. Sorry, Lucas, go.
From my perspective, we're probably just going to say along the lines of with the investment side of things is, as I said earlier, we're probably running at 5 to 10% of our absolute capacity as we stand. For us, we just want to kick it into gear, and we've got a lot of potential. And I think people will be pretty surprised about what we can achieve, given what we've done so far with what we've had. So, this is a great opportunity to come on board. There might not be an option to invest it another time in the future. So if you miss this opportunity now, you might not have that opportunity in the future. Don't look at it back on something like Apple and go, I should have bought Apple shares back in the day, when you could jump on board and buy with us. And, there's going to be a lot of perks and stuff, and we'll have a lot of fun along the way. And we're going to have some cool venues, and there'll be good discounts and all that fun stuff. But it's all in the document. But, we're here for the long run, and we hope that everyone can come and join us.
Well, I should point out, anyone that hasn't expressed interest on this webinar should make sure they do, and then you can get a look at the offer documents and when we do a little private raise before we go public, you'll be able to get in early at the ground level. So thanks for everyone that's come. We've had about 60 odd people, which is just fantastic. I'm sure some of them are on school holidays and, busy in their work week. So thank you for coming, and thanks for your time, guys. And we'll put the recording of this, so I'll edit it up a bit, and we'll put the recording on your platform as soon as possible. So any other questions, just pop them on your profile forum. And awesome. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.